Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hugonauts, where we review and discuss with you the best sci-fi novels of all time. This week, we're doing a little bit of a departure episode. We are ranking the Nebula nominees for the year 2023, seeing what we like and what we think you all should read. The Nebula Awards is a ceremony voted on by the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America. That's one of the 2 to 4 biggest award ceremonies of the year for science fiction and fantasy novels. So let's hear it, Brent. Let's start with number 6.
For sure. Yeah, excited about this. Some really good stuff. Okay, coming in number 6, but also we're not going to give it a rank at all. We'll talk about that. Nona the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This is a book that's both fantasy and science fiction. There's interstellar travel, but also lots of death magic. And it's the 3rd book in the Locked Tomb series. Here's the deal. Her city is under siege. The zombies are coming back. And all Nona wants is a birthday party. In many ways, Nona is like other people. She lives with her family, has a job at her local school, and loves walks on the beach and meeting new dogs, especially Noodle. But Nona's not like other people. 6 months ago, she woke up in a stranger's body, and she's afraid she might have to give it back. Meanwhile, the whole city is falling to pieces. A monstrous blue sphere hangs on the horizon, ready to tear the planet apart. Blood of Eden forces have surrounded the last cohort facility and wait for the Emperor Undying to come calling. Their leaders want Nona to be the weapon that will save them from the 9 houses. Nona would prefer to live an ordinary life with the people she loves, with Pyrrha and Camilla and Palamedes, but she also knows that nothing lasts forever. And each night, Nona dreams of a woman with a skull-painted face. Now, let me say, if that summary didn't make a lot of sense, that is because you absolutely cannot read this book as a standalone. You must read it as, you have to read the whole series for this book to make any sense. Full disclaimer, we did not. We just read all the books that were nominated, and I have not read Gideon the Ninth, the first book in the series. So we're almost not going to give this book a ranking. You cannot. It's fully not even comprehensible if you haven't read the other books in the series. That said, the writing is extremely fun. It's funny without it being a joke book, which is rare and fun. And it makes the dark world feel not so scary. So yeah, that's kind of the gist with Nona the Ninth.
So maybe we pitch it as a reverse. If you liked Gideon the Ninth, let us know and we'll read that so we can back into it.
Yep. What do you think? Who would love this book?
If you loved the Locked Tomb series and you want to keep reading it, I think I might go back and start from the beginning and see where it ends up. But you're right. It's tough when it's a solo book in a series that is not the first one that is nominated, and you're jumping into the deep end with no floaties.
Yeah, it's a lot harder for exactly this reason. I think it's a lot harder to win these awards when you're part of a series and it's not the first book, which makes sense. It's for the best novel, not the best series. That's the whole award. So that said, you will not love it if you haven't read the rest of the series. If you're excited about the idea of zombies and death magic and some interstellar travel, go read the series from the beginning.
All right, and coming in at a real number 5, is Nettle Bone by T. Kingfisher. The summary of which is as follows. After years of seeing her sisters suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Mara, the shy convent-raised third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to their rescue. No one, except Mara herself. Seeking help from a powerful dust wife who can communicate with the dead, Mara is offered the tools to kill a prince if she can complete 3 impossible tasks. But, as is the way in tales of princes, witches, and daughters, the impossible is only the beginning. On her quest, Mara is joined by the Dust Wife, a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping former knight, and a chicken possessed by a demon. Together, the 5 of them intend to be the hand that closes around the throat of the prince and frees Mara's family and their kingdom from its tyrannous ruler at last.
This one I felt like was a super straightforward fantasy novel. That said, the fun thing about it is the character dynamics. The Dust Wife and the fairy godmother, Agnes, are both old ladies. And one of them is a crotchety old lady and the other one's a matronly style grandmother. And their banter is really fun. And then also the demon chicken the comedy of relief works. It's just bawing at appropriate moments throughout the novel. It's like got great macaw timing.
Yeah, it's chickens are funny. I mean, like remembering the Aqua Teen Hunger Force Arise chicken episodes. Classic.
Deep cut. I love that. Yeah, I think so. You'll love this if you just want a quick, fun, traditional story about, fighting for what's right, where the girl gets the guy and all ends well. It's just, it's going to be like just a nice, smooth on the palate. Nothing too complicated.
Yeah, and like a lot of these, the you won't love is kind of the opposite of the you will love, which is if you're looking for any surprises, novelty of plot, or big thought experiments, this is maybe not it for you. This is more of a fun read with good humor and nice clippy plot.
Yep. Number 4 is Spear by Nicola Griffith, which is another fantasy book. And this one is about a girl who knows she has a destiny before she even knows her name. She grows up in the wild in a cave with her mother, but visions of a faraway lake come to her on the spring breeze. And when she hears a traveler speak of Artos, king of Caerleon, she knows that her future lies at his court. And so, brimming with magic and eager to test her strength, she breaks her covenant with her mother and, with a broken hunting spear and mended armor, rides on a bony gelding to Caerleon. On her adventures, she meets other great knights and steals the hearts of beautiful women. She'll fight warriors and sorcerers, and she will find her love and the lake and her fate. So,
I'm loving books that are about like reimagining old stories and old mythologies with new characters and from new perspectives, right? You got like Circe and Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller is great examples. I like Circe way more than Song of Achilles, but that's a different story. But this is a fun kind of new trope.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So this is a King Arthur story, but with a woman pretending to be a man who is attracted to women, and Artos is like also into some, King Arthur is not what you're necessarily strictly expecting. The other thing I would say about this is like the beginning of this book is like one of the best beginnings of a fantasy book I've ever read. It's all show, no tell. Like at the beginning, the reason we know she's big and strong is because she finds this man's armor and it's too small for her. The way we start to see maybe she's magic is that she's like smelling and sort of catching these sense of memories in faraway places. And for a while, it's not clear if she's just like kind of strange and has a strange way of describing the world, or like, oh, is she actually has some magic? She just doesn't know how to use it yet. The last thing I'd say about it is it really feels like Neil Gaiman. It's his same short, clear, evocative tone, really short sentences, twist on a myth that we all know. And if you're listening to the audiobook, it's read by the author, which Neil Gaiman also does. So it felt very Neil Gaiman-esque to me.
Yeah, you'll love it if, as you just said, you like that type of storytelling, the Neil Gaiman style, and you're interested in mythology, particularly here, obviously King Arthur stories, the Knights of the Round Table universe or mythos, as it used to be known.
The King Arthur universe, cinematic universe.
Yeah, yeah. And you like story, you like that Mulan twist, and it's just a fun, fast read.
Yeah. For sure. I think you won't love it if you are looking for something that feels totally new. This is a story we all know with changes to it made that also are like historically not common, but we've had a lot of books like this, which like retell the story with some like queering and gender swapping and that kind of like interesting layer. So yeah, it's a well done version, but it doesn't feel like something like totally fresh. So if you're looking for that like big new idea, this might not be it.
Number 3 is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, which is another fantasy novel. And it is about, after a lifetime of bounties and bloodshed, Viv is hanging up her sword for the last time. The battle-weary orc aims to start fresh, opening their first ever coffee shop in the city of Thune. But old and new rivals stand in the way of success. Not to mention the fact that no one has the faintest idea what coffee actually is. If Viv wants to put the blade behind her and make her plans a reality, she won't be able to go it alone. But the true rewards of the uncharted path are the travelers you meet along the way. And whether drawn together by ancient magic, flaky pastry, or freshly brewed cup, they may become partners, family, and something deeper than she could have ever dreamed. So here we have if we're talking universes, a Dungeons and Dragons universe novel. And another recent trope that I also enjoy, which is the kind of like the feel-good, more mundane science fiction fantasy, something that's set in a different universe, but the stakes aren't crazy high, and it's more like true to life.
Yeah. Yeah, and it worked really well. I mean, I'll be honest here. I went into this book very prepared to dislike it just because of the name. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to read Legends and Lattes. But it's so good. That's a testament to how good this book is, that I came in with stink face on. And by the time it was over, I was like, wow, that was so fun. It's so cute. It's a great premise. Building a coffee shop in a D&D city is just fun. It's just a fun thing to do. And there's the hobgoblin carpenter and the ratkin baker who makes the great cinnamon rolls and the succubus who's trying not to use her sexy powers. She just wants to be her authentic self. It just all works. It's really cute and great.
And you'll love it if you want, as we said, an uplifting, fun, character-driven novel with interesting, kind of newer, quirky, fun conflict. And you're definitely going to love it if you're a Becky Chambers fan.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, the Becky Chambers fans have got to read this one. That said, the other side of that coin is you're not likely to like this book if you're looking for a lot of action or high stakes conflict. That's not the deal. This is about opening a coffee shop and trying to make the coffee shop work. That's the story. So
why don't you tell us about number 2 then?
Okay, here we go. So number 2 is Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is more fantasy than sci-fi. And it's set in 1828. Robin Swift, orphaned by the cholera in Canton, is brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lavelle. There, he trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day that he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. The tower and its students are the world's center for translation and, more importantly, magic. Silverworking, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars, has made the British unparalleled in power as the arcane craft serves the empire's quest for colonization. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. But knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, Robin realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues an unjust war in China over silver and opium, Robin must decide.
Yes, he must. And this comes in at number 2 because it is it's a powerful, thought-provoking novel. I would almost describe it as more like an alternate history than maybe like a full fantasy. It's definitely not science fiction, but essentially the silver bars with words inscribed in them replace the idea of fossil fuels and other forms of energy resource and industry in the industrial era, in our real world industrial era. So it's kind of just a new resource, and it more reads like an alternate history. It's a very powerful story about anti-colonialism, told from the perspective of characters who really want to fit into this system and gain access to the knowledge for the knowledge's sake that empire has, that colonialism has created, but who aren't ever invited in, even though they're needed for their skills desperately. They're not invited into the inner circle. They're still foreigners from the colonies. And I've never read anything quite as thought-provoking about that perspective. What it would be like to be an outsider who wants to be part of something, who's not allowed in, and having to make decisions about what to do with that. Without spoiling too much. It's also a really fascinating exploration into language. The language is what, the Translation Institute of Babel is inscribing language on the silver bars to make things around the world work. So it's a integral function of the story. But every time there's a word used for its power, there's annotations about its etymology. Is it Latin based? Why did we use the Latin word versus its later French derivative? Why did we use that in combination with Chinese character? And the etymologies of those words and the subtleties of the connotations of each word culturally and linguistically. So anyone who's fascinated with language will love this, and a super emotional look into colonizer, colonized, oppression, and violence as a language as well. That violence is possibly the only answer, the only language that an oppressor might understand. So we loved this book. Oh, and the characters are fantastic, which of course, if it's going to be emotional.
Just casual aside, characters are fantastic.
Yeah, just casually great characters. So you're going to love this book if you are interested in language and etymology and semiotics, and you're also going to love it if you're interested in a powerful story about those who are struggling to fit into a power structure that really needs them but doesn't respect them.
For sure. The other side of that coin, you are not likely to like this book if you don't like the Victorian era, or you aren't into steampunk. They aren't using steam, but it's like an alternative way of making steampunk, basically. Or if you're a sci-fi purist who really enjoys technology, the future, it's just not that. So if that's what you're looking for, this ain't it.
Yes, and as you may have noticed, a lot of these are fantasy novels or alt histories, different types of spec fiction. So our number one is, maybe we're biased, but we finally have a sci-fi, and it's a great one.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so number one on our list of the Nebula nominees from 2022 is The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Nayler. So rumors have begun to spread of a species of hyper-intelligent, dangerous octopus that may have developed its own language and culture. Marine biologist Dr. Han Nguyen, who spent her life researching cephalopod intelligence, will do anything for the chance to study them. The transnational tech corporation Dianima, however, has sealed the remote Kondau archipelago where the octopuses were discovered. Dr. Nguyen joined Dianima's team on the islands, a battle-scarred security agent and the world's first android, to try and get closer. The octopuses hold the key to unprecedented breakthroughs in extra-human intelligence. The stakes are high, there are vast fortunes to be made by whoever can take advantage of the octopus's advancements, and as Dr. Nguyen struggles to communicate with the newly discovered species, forces larger than Dianima close in to seize the octopuses for themselves. But no one has yet asked the octopuses what they think, and what they might do about it.
Yes, Mountain in the Sea. This was a fun one. I mean, first of all, let's just start. First of all, it's a wonderful exploration into human consciousness, something we love so much about science fiction, exploring human consciousness through the foils of other types of consciousness, whether they're trying to emulate human consciousness or they're their own types of consciousness.
Like the android. Yep.
Yeah. You have the android, and then you have cephalopods, and you have humans. Another mention that I really loved, one of the things that stuck out the most for me from the text was this entity called a 0.5, which is, we're in a near future here. And the 0.5s are artificial intelligences that are created to be in relationships with people, kind of like Joy in Blade Runner 2049, if you've seen that. And it's that they're created to be just real enough as humans to be in a convincing relationship, but also have no real needs. So it takes out the compromise portion of a relationship, which I think a lot of people would argue is what a relationship is: growth and compromise and a little bit of struggle. And so these are created to kind of be the popcorn form of a relationship, which feels really prescient to where we might be headed, how a lot of technology and things are sold to us in the modern world as entertainment, and making things easier for us and taking all of the challenge out. So I loved the 0.5s. And the near future world in general that Nayler has created is just super cool. I mean, you've got another element that I loved is these autonomous trawling vessels. The sea is very overfished, but and it's illegal to fish it, but people still do, obviously. And we spend a lot of time on an autonomous trawler, which is controlled by an AI whose only goal is to like get fish and bring them in, but needs a lot of basically slave human labor. So we see a possible interaction between an AI that's been charged with a very specific task at any cost versus the cost of human lives. Loved that part. And I also love that it's just a standalone novel. It feels very, start to finish. It gets its message across, which is kind of maybe a little more rare these days, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to lean into the series. It happens more and more. So, I'm totally with you. When you've got the thing that's just like beautiful, self-contained, that's what a novel is to me.
Exactly. And here, like Babel, we've got another exploration into semiotics and language, particularly between cephalopods and humans. How do you use symbols and words to represent a concept that someone else's qualia, another being's senses don't understand in the same way your senses understand them. They don't understand the universe in the same way. How do you make metaphor to communicate when your fundamental sensual experience is different? And that is it's done excellently here by Nayler, that exploration. So there's a lot of cool thoughts, and it's a pretty propelling story. There's a lot of stakes and action with the anima trying to find and study this cephalopod monster that's basically a myth of Condau Island off of Vietnam. And I really enjoyed the ride.
For sure. So you're going to love this book if you enjoy an exploration of lots of different sci-fi tropes, you like marine biology or semiotics, and you want a standalone novel that raises lots of interesting questions to keep you thinking long after you've finished. That's what you're going to get here.
Yeah. And you may not like it as much if you're expecting kind of an action saga, like an on-Earth space opera. We couldn't think of a term for that. Just an action opera. I don't think anyone's ever used it like that. But with a lot of octopus characters, a la like Children of Ruin or the dolphins from Bryn's Uplift series. The cephalopod mind is talked about a lot and is a really interesting foil and analog to humanity, but there aren't as many octopus characters as I thought there were going to be. So,
yeah.
You won't like it here is kind of just a small gripe with, from a great novel. So
for sure.
We hope you get to read in some of these.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll find out who wins here in just a little over a week. The actual Nebula Award, winner will be announced, and then the Hugo nominees are coming out soon. We're going to read all those too, and tell you all about those. You can pick your favorites to read from 2022, and we're just excited to get into award season here and really look back at all the great fiction that came to us in 2022.
Yeah, and I'm going to steal it. Keep reading, everybody.
Bye.